So today will be the rebirth, if you want to call it, of the Monday Night Wars Part 2 of the WWE versus the opposition on Monday nights. Actually, if you want to count the January 4th show too, and I thought that January 4th, the one thing that it did that was successful is it got people talking about wrestling again. It got lots of people talking about wrestling. People who I know don't even watch wrestling, and I'm going out to my local having a drink, and they're coming up to me because I'm known as the wrestling guy, and they're asking me, "Oh, you know about January 4th?" And I think that was the one successful thing it did. People were talking about wrestling, whether it was WWE, whether it was TNA, they were talking about wrestling. And I'm sure that's part of the aim coming into tonight, that people are talking about wrestling. Thing is, I'm looking at what the WWE is going to have for the next 3 to 4 weeks, and I want to compare it to what TNA might have for the next couple of weeks. They're 2 weeks away from a pay-per-view Destination X, which is supposed to be an X Division only pay-per-view, which they haven't really done enough to build up for, which is another story. The main event will be Hogan and Abyss versus Styles and Flair. Abyss is now coming out with American Made, which is a joke. Uh, they talk about WWE nearly all the time, more than the WWE do, which is even more irritating. And in addition to that, we've already seen Hogan beat Flair up and bust him open. So the specialness of them having a match is kind of, gone down a bit. So they've kind of shot themselves in the foot slightly coming into the Monday night's taping. The other thing that I have heard though, apparently, is that RVD is supposedly signed with TNA. I think that's a good acquisition if they have signed him and if he's going there. Van Dam is one of the few people who's an available agent or a free agent who has the ability to make fans change the channel and watch him. And I think if they do that right, they can. But given TNA's track record of signing name guys and then taking away the specialness of them, I'm not too sure. The thing is, they're going to go head to head with WWE at a time when the WWE is at its very, from a creative standpoint, is at its strongest. We all know that from about January to about WrestleMania time, the TV gets very, very strong from a creative standpoint, and it's leading up to WrestleMania. And how on earth are they going to compete with that? And I've been watching the last couple of Impacts, and they haven't been that good, to be honest with you. There's been some alright matches, but there's just been lots of just, I don't know. If you're a fan for the first time seeing TNA and they do some of the same things that they have been doing and they do it tonight in comparison to what the WWE are doing, it's going to look really bad. TNA are very, very capable, and I know people go, "Oh, stop picking on TNA, oh, you're too hard on them," but the thing is, Truth Slayer said it very well. In 2005, they had some great shows and they showed signs of greatness. They have a fantastic roster. The problem is, they're not doing the best that they can with these talents, in my opinion. And I always found it very patronizing, almost going off topic here, when Dixie Carter did that speech last year, going, "Oh, all the wrestlers need to step up 110%." The thing is, the wrestlers have been stepping up 110% for years. You've been feeding them with absolute garbage writing and promotional stuff, and you know, I think I think it's that aspect that needs to step up. I mean, looking at last week's Impact, they had this ridiculous segment with Mick Foley. Now, if they have that on, and then there's something on Raw, which is probably far more captivating and interesting, people are going to switch over. So they have to be at their best creatively and at their best from a marketing standpoint. It's going to get on my nerves so much if I watch Impact, this week's Impact, and they talk about the WWE constantly, which TNA has a habit of doing. And oh, the WWE this, the WWE. If they keep talking about the WWE, people are going to just watch that show in the end. And here's a funny note: the rating went up for Impact on the January 4th show, and then gradually it went right back down to what they usually do. Now, I'm not sure what the rating's going to be coming in tonight. I don't really want to make a prediction on that. I really hope they do well. However, I've got a horrible feeling the ratings may drop again because the lead into WrestleMania is always very strong. Steve Austin is going to be guest hosting Raw, I think, in 2 weeks, which is going to be quite a big thing. And then after that, you've got to compete with the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania, which always does quite well and gets a good rating. Everyone watches that Raw. So TNA really can't afford to put on the same moronic, stupid stuff that they put on. Everyone wants to point fingers at Russo and everybody else, but really, I point fingers at the person who's approving of all of this stuff, Dixie Carter and Jeff Jarrett, because, I mean, come on, I don't know. I don't know what it is they're not seeing, but I really want them to do well. That's the problem. But will they? And what does this mean for wrestling in the long term? I don't know. Um, People are comparing them to WCW, and I don't want to go that far, but to be honest with you, when I watch it, and when I've been watching it for the last 3 years, it just feels like I'm 15 years old all over again, and I'm watching Nitro when it just started to get worse and worse and worse. And sometimes I get that feeling when I watch TNA, and that's not a good thing. That really is not a good thing. Uh, so what's going to happen? I don't know. I really wish them well. I'm glad that guys like the Young Bucks and Shirley and Saban and young talent can kind of get featured on this, and that's a good thing. But I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen. And some of the homegrown talent have become unimportant. I don't really think this AJ Styles Ric Flair thing, making AJ into the next Ric Flair, is convincing anybody. When you acknowledge that your top star is married and has children, and then 2 weeks later you're trying to pass him off as a womanizer in the next Ric Flair, people can't buy into it, and that's ridiculous. The Samoa Joe stuff, I don't know where they're going with that. I want to see. That's another video for another time on my thoughts on what TNA have done with Samoa Joe, and I'll probably do that later. Other than that, guys, I'm going to get going, and who knows? I wish them all the best. That's all I'm going to say.